It's In Your Face Live. I'm Perry.
I'm Remy.
And we're here again for yet another great show. Last week's show was freaking fantastic.
Phenomenal.
Almost record number of people attended. Tonight we are celebrating what Joe Biden calls the human rights issue of our time. And there's so much to talk about relative to because of this topic. Excuse our we could do this every single time.
Oh my goodness.
Every single time. It's okay. We do this we have a lot to talk about tonight because this is the human rights issue of our time. And Joe Biden's right. And we have a lot to talk about tonight because it is so pressing, because it is such a leading edge topic of humanity. So why don't we just kick it off? Remy, why don't you go ahead and kick it off with a discussion about our first topic that we're talking about tonight. Let me just first say welcome all the viewers. Jonathan, hey, how's it going?
I saw Mari.
Mari's here. Okay, Mari.
Kristen. Hi guys.
Mari. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Mari, your show comes out tomorrow. We've got part 1 and 2
exciting.
coming out, and then I think 3 or 4 snippets from the show. Really great show, and I think people are really going to love it. Okay, sorry about that. Am I forgetting something?
I don't know. Are you?
Okay, so the first thing we're gonna lead off with is we're gonna go way back in time.
Way back.
I was thinking it's not way back, but it's just for dramatic effect.
It is dramatic.
We're gonna go way back in time, and we're a drama queen. I'm a drama queen. We're gonna go way back in time and talk about how this whole thing got started.
1967.
Oh, thank you. Look at you, woman with the digits. 1967, 2 years after I was born.
Way back.
like I said. Okay, so
we're talking about Stonewall. What the event that everybody accounts as the turning point of, or the starting point of the gay rights movement.
What was Stonewall? Because I didn't know what that was.
Stonewall, for those of you who don't know, was a bar in New York, owned apparently by the mob, and it was where the drag queens and the gays went, and the trans people, and but at that time period, it was completely illegal for all of that to be any of those things.
Right.
And finally one night, the patrons of the bar were fed up with the police harassment,
raiding
and
putting
violating
them in jail,
and all putting them in jail and all sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
So they stood up to them by violence.
Violence, exactly. And as I understand
violence.
it, the city erupted in vandalism and cars being turned over, fires all over the place.
It turned into a riot in the streets.
Thank you. A riot, just like the brothers.
It turned into a riot in the streets, and it was basically spearheaded by the drag queens and trans members of that community. They were the ones who finally were done. They were fed up. They're like, this is me. You can't treat me this way anymore. And they rebelled.
Yes.
And right after that, all of the gay marches and all of the gay community came together and rallied themselves up, and for that civil rights movement.
Right, and from what I understand, even though the transgender members of this community were on the leading edge of this,
The
very forefront of this protest movement, and yet the LGB...
We got left behind.
Yes,
in my opinion.
the LGB did not acknowledge the T component of this protest, which was the group that started it in the first place.
Right. And in a lot of ways has left the trans community behind.
Yes.
The gay and the homosexual community has made leaps and bounds and huge advancements. They've won all sorts of things, legal marriage and same right, all these different, all the rights, employment rights and housing rights and
bathroom rights.
Right.
Right.
They've got bathroom rights.
Right. And, Yeah.
So, in a lot of ways, the fight for the trans community is just now coming.
It is just now coming. And there was one, I'm going to help you out here. There was one character that was on the bleeding edge of the leading edge of the transgender community that was supporting or creating this movement for all the members of the LGBT community, and that was Marsha P. Johnson.
Marsha P. Johnson.
And Marsha P. Johnson, I didn't know this person. I will admit, I was ignorant about this.
I knew the name.
Okay.
But there's a documentary on Netflix, which is where I saw.
What's it? Do you remember what it's called?
It's called The Death and the Life of Marsha P. Johnson.
Yes.
And P stands for Pay It No Mind.
Yes.
I love it. And it's she had a mysterious death, but she was at Stonewall, and so it's someone investigating her death, but in that she finds out Marsha P's life.
Yes.
And the person that they were, because I think that's probably a little bit more appropriate.
Probably these days, because they didn't probably talk that way back then.
No.
So since Marsha identified, she presented both male and female. She would probably prefer the plural singular. Is that how you say it?
I don't know.
Anyway, they them pronouns.
Y'alls.
Yes.
Y'all.
And so what I found interesting, so Remy and I both watched this show, and this is what kicked this topic, and the next one we're going to talk about is what created the format for the show tonight. Is what
I wanted to talk about it.
Yeah, we wanted to talk about it. And to be honest with you, I didn't want to talk about it at first because it seemed as though to be that it was really negative. The fact that this person had been murdered and no one knew who murdered who murdered them, and they were pointing to the mob. And by all accounts, it looks like it might have been the mob, but the mob didn't have their hands in it. It didn't. By the evidence that's shown, it doesn't look like they actually killed her.
It's
sounds
still
like
a suspicious death.
Yes, it's a suspicious death.
Even with all the research that
yes.
I think her name is Victoria,
yes.
who does the documentary, who happens to be a trans woman.
Yes, which we'll not cover that part. But anyway, it was really remarkable, this person's story. This person, I think one of the reasons why she was pursued by the mob is because she was out in front trying to get the mob out of the businesses that were generating, that were serving the trans community and the LGBT community and creating a lot of income, but the income wasn't showing up in the community.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
The mob was pocketing.
They were siphoning it off and doing whatever it is the mob does with their money. And so Marsha P. Johnson, Stonewall, and this comes right 67. So that's right around the time, I believe, that African Americans were in the full frontal effort of achieving as a community, its civil rights.
Right.
And so we have said over and over on this show and in our other show, that the two are like the the black civil rights movement and now the trans civil rights movement and the gay civil rights, because Harvey Milk and all of them, they went through the exact same situation.
Oh, yeah.
All of these civil rights issues are pushing our society forward, and it's like that's why I agree with Joe Biden, who says that this is, before it was the blacks. Who came before the black civil rights?
The women.
Oh, thank you, Remy.
Women.
Thank you, dear. Yes, so it was women. Was it? Yeah, it was.
Yes,
it was women.
It was women.
I thought it was blacks then women.
No, women. No.
Okay.
Black men got the right to vote before white women.
You're right. So it was women, and then black people, and then gay people, and now it's the trans people's turn. And so it's like this. It's
hello, Yoda.
It's Yoda.
You can speak on these time periods.
Gotcha. And so it's really awesome to see if oftentimes I think we human beings, we look at a period of time, whether it's a day or a year or a month or even a second, and we consider that period of time as isolated from everything else. And as a result of that, we tend not to acknowledge all the benefit that moment has received as a result of all the moments before that. And so the trans community is a case in point, for example. So it's like the trans community, in some ways, will not acknowledge, and I'm homogenizing here, but tends not to acknowledge the huge benefit they're receiving from the momentum created from the women's movement, the black movement, the gay movement, and now they're here. And they're all, we've said before that the trans movement, the trans civil rights movement, is taking cues from all these other movements that's come before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's
point. So yes, emancipation too.
Oh, that's right. Actually, did that come before the women's right to vote? It did. Okay. So you can see how much I know about history because I don't really care about it that much. All right. So yeah, it's awesome that we have this day and age. What's really cool about it is that people like you and me have the opportunity to participate in this movement. And when I was preparing for this show, I was thinking how blessed we are to have the opportunity to be doing something like this show to help the transgender movement, and at the same time, in a bigger picture, help move forward the civil rights issue of our time.
Absolutely.
It's really phenomenal that we're doing this. And in some ways, I feel as though, like we were, maybe in a previous life, Remy and I were either blacks or whites working for the civil rights movement. And maybe before that, we were both women working for the suffrage movement. Or maybe I was a woman and you were a man, or vice versa. I mean, there's got to be a connection between the passion we feel for this movement and probably what we've done in our previous lives. It's just very exciting to think about. Kristen has a comment. I'm going to add the poly community kind of tract on the end. I say this as a poly woman who is straight and white. How lucky I am that all these folks bulldozed away. Absolutely, Kristen. And it's interesting because there is no straight line gradation between all of these movements. They're all kind of working together because we still have...
That's exactly what Mari was just saying. Yeah, that's exactly what Mari was just saying.
That's exactly right. Yes, Mari.
Interrelations.
That's right. We still have... It's so interesting because we still have the Black Civil Rights Movement. It's still going on with Black Lives Matter.
Yeah.
And so and with women's... I mean, we're talking about women's reproductive rights now, where it used to be the right to vote. Now it's the right to fucking make the decisions over their own body. What the hell? Why do we even have to discuss that? That's just... Okay, let's not get started. And so, yes. So, right, Mari's right, and Kristen is right, too. I mean, there are multi-dimensional aspects to reality. And in terms of human expression and presentation... We definitely have the poly. We definitely have the non-binary. We definitely have the transgender. There are so many gradations of what it means to be human. This is a great segue. To me, it makes no sense that someone would stick to the gender binary and say a person who is trans is mentally ill. It just makes no sense.
Blinders.
Yes. But
limiting.
Yes, well, but it does make sense if you believe or even consider that your thoughts create your reality. Mm-hmm. Because if you only believe, or if you've only been taught that there are only men and women, aka through the Bible, then of course your reality is going to support that. You will not be able to acknowledge anything other than what your beliefs tell you. So, Troy says, I'm going to say it again.
Yes, trans women of color started...
That's exactly right.
Yes.
He's exactly right. There is no...
Marsha P. Johnson was black. Yes.
There was another woman that they featured on the trans list, a very old African-American woman. Troy probably knows this person. If you saw the trans list, Troy, the first or second person that was featured talked about Stonewall. She had only one tooth and was kind of large. I'm trying to just characterize her so that people might know who this person is. I didn't know who she was, but Troy's absolutely right. It's the trans women of color that started this whole thing. And it's interesting. Now, this is really interesting. Trans women of color started this issue, and trans women of color continue to be the most persecuted members of this movement. And so
we were left behind by the movement.
It's interesting
to fend for ourselves.
Yeah, well, so it's interesting because one perspective is you could say the trans women of color were left behind. Another way to see it is trans women of color are the most powerful of the movement, and they're taking on the brunt of what it means to be in the movement by
being.
Yes, I was going to say by sacrificing, but there is no sacrifice in physical reality. By being and accepting in their personhood whatever results show up for their lives, whether it's being killed or maimed or murdered or what have you. And so trans women of color continue to lead this movement because of that. And so I don't think they're being left behind. I think they're actually way out in front, causing the events which trigger the people way in the back, the if I may say, the ignorant, blinded people to wake up and start moving forward. And there's another segue. This is a perfect segue to the other issue we wanted to talk about, which is perfect because we're about halfway through, which is I'll just say inclusion. The inclusion of Inez Rao, I think is how you say her name, into Playboy magazine.
Yes.
Now, I just for those of you who are feminists, I know this may be triggering, but you got to understand the role Playboy has played in American society.
Mm-hmm.
So real quickly, Inez Rao, a model from France who is transgender, a transgender woman of color, she is the first deliberately acknowledged playmate featured in Playboy. And her issue, I think, comes out next month or this month. And she, like I said, she's a trans person of color. Now, a little history on Playboy. Playboy was the first magazine that began, it wasn't smut, but began showing women, showcasing the beauty of the feminine form.
Mm-hmm.
And when Hugh Hefner launched Playboy, it got a lot of criticism because at the time we were in really puritanical America, and there was never anything done like this before. And it positioned, the magazine positioned itself not only as this advanced social commentary, but it also, in many ways, liberated women. It participated in liberating women, in creating them as these powerful potential characters or personalities. And so when Hugh Hefner, I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but Hugh Hefner, when the Bond girl, do you know the Bond girl's name? Troy or
Pussy
Jonathan?
galore. I don't know these things.
Troy or Jonathan probably knows this woman. There was a Bond girl who was transgender, and when we talked about this in a couple shows ago, when she was outed by the newspapers that she was very successful model, when she was outed as transgender, her career tanked. And Hugh Hefner, behind the scenes, said to her, I will support you in any way I can. In fact, I will put you in Playboy if you want. And he attempted to put her in Playboy. And the advertisers, when they found out he was going to do that, they threatened to withdraw all the advertisement. And so he could not do it. But what he ended up doing is he ended up putting her, featuring her in the Asian, I think it was the Asian edition of Playboy. And that's kind of gave her a little bit of leeway to keep her career going a little bit. Anyway, so it makes total sense that today, Cooper Hefner, which is, I believe, his son, said, in relation to Inez Rao being in Playboy, that this was the right thing to do, no matter whether or not the subscribers to Playboy agree with it.
Yeah, he said no matter what the comments come back as.
Yes. And so it's again, Playboy, just like trans women of color and black people and gay people, Playboy is playing its perennial role as being on the leading edge of moving society forward. It's really awesome to see. What's funny? Oh, Tula, that was her name. Thank you, Jonathan. I knew Jonathan would know. Or was it? Yeah.
It was,
Tula and Carolyn Crossy, they're the same people.
Troy said it first, and then
Oh, yeah.
Jonathan.
Yeah. So...
Of course the boys know.
Yes. So, what's interesting about the Playboy subject is we have a former porn star, and I believe she's probably a playmate, Jenna Jameson, who has come out with all the familiar arguments for why trans people not only shouldn't be in Playboy, but shouldn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
She's talking about science. She's talking about, she's talking about it being a mental illness. And she's getting a lot of support from some Playboy subscribers and other people in the Twitterverse. Now, this is really important to acknowledge.
But we know that the world is full of a lot of idiots.
Yes!
So...
Yes! And those people, those idiots, those people who are ignorant, or those people who have perspectives that do not accept the broader perspective of humanity are actually serving.
People sleep. Hell asleep.
They're serving to move the movement forward because they create the conflict that gets news. So when you have a lot of people, I should say a minority of people, saying stupid stuff like Jenna is saying, it draws more attention to the subject matter. And as a result of drawing more attention to the subject matter, it gets more coverage in the news. And because it gets more coverage in the news, it emboldens more people of the community to step up. And as that happens,
It's the whole bathroom issue. You know,
yes.
the right wing pushed it so hard, making such a big deal about it, that all it did was fuel the trans rights movement. You know what I mean? Really.
I totally get it.
To the forefront.
Yes.
And to what it is right at the moment.
Well, and where
they
it is...
pushed it.
Yes. And where it is right at the moment
Interestingly
is...
enough.
Yep. Is North Carolina has come out with a settlement agreement which will allow transgender people to use the bathroom of their choice. And I can bet you, because North Carolina was ahead of Texas, I can bet you that Texas is going to come out doing the same thing. It's just inevitable. It's inevitable, and this is why, we say pay attention to what's happening with these issues, because in the end, it all works out. The same thing's going to happen with the transgender people in the military. It's all going to work out because it just works out. What are you laughing about? Should we turn to comments?
Sure,
Let's get some comments. Okay. Oh, I see what you're laughing about. Jonathan and Troy, as usual, are playing amongst themselves. There's not a whole lot of comments today. We've covered most of them. I'm just going through here. Yeah. Oh, Kristen's finally around. So welcome to the show, Kristen. Glad you were able to catch us. Stop telling my business. So Marie's calling me out. What's she calling me out for? What'd I do?
Call him out, girl. Call him out.
What'd I do, Marie? Okay, so yeah, this is... So it's interesting. Now I've been inspired to talk about the transamorous man.
Miss Major Griffin Gracie you were talking about.
That's the person, yes! Thank you, Mari. That's her. So where does the trans-attracted transamorous man fit in this civil rights movement? Where does he fit in? Does he fit in? Of course he fits in.
Of course he fits in.
Where does he fit in? And this is what we've been saying at the Transamorous Network. What did you just say? What did you just say?
Get in where you fit in.
Yes, that's right. Get in where you fit in. But this is what we've been saying at the Transamorous Network for a long time, is that the trans-attracted man is a latent, powerful force for this civil rights movement. As more of us begin to step up, and this is why the transportive brotherhood is so important, as more begin to step up and speak out, more people who are on the sidelines questioning whether this is legitimate or not will begin to lean in the direction of progress.
Well, right.
Because it's hard. So
hey,
go ahead. Say
Cooper Hefner obviously recognizes.
Go ahead.
It's a thing.
Well, that's the thing, right?
And it's normal part of things, and why not add that into the mix?
Cooper being in the... Okay, let's say that Playboy is soft porn, not hard porn. But being in that industry, I'm sure Cooper is aware. Cooper Hefner, Hugh's son, is aware that transgender porn is a huge thing. Which
maybe he's a trans-attracted man.
That's what I was thinking, but I'm not going to claim that. But my point is that...
Who knows?
If transgender porn is a big thing, then there must be a lot of men out there consuming transgender porn. It's illogical to think that if that, and it's very large, the number of men that are consuming this kind of porn. If those kind of men are consuming that kind of porn, right? What is the intersection between trans men who are attracted to trans women through porn and men who are subscribed to Playboy? There's got to be an overlap.
Of course there's got to be an overlap.
So it makes sense that Playboy is going to feature a trans woman in Playboy, because despite the fact that some minority of subscribers are going, "Oh, this is a travesty," there are a lot of men who are subscribers to Playboy going, "I'm going to get that issue. I'm going to get that issue because I want to see that person." Oh, looking at the Huffington Post, she's beautiful. I can't wait to get that issue. And so it could be argued that Playboy is making a business move by featuring trans women in...
And I'm sure on one level it absolutely is.
I would agree with that. In fact, the whole bathroom issue is a business issue for corporations. They're not just doing it because they're civil rights minded. They're doing it because they know that in order to attract the best and the brightest to work for their corporations, they have to be seen as supporting those leading edge populations where all the smart people are coming from, which is the gay, lesbian, transgender communities. Mm-hmm. So it all, like Mari said, it all kind of comes together like this. Corporations are supporting the trans movement because it's good business. Playboy's featuring transgender women in their magazine because it's good business and it's time. I wonder if there was a time, I'm sure there was, where Playboy featured their first African American playmate. and when that happened. I wonder what, if anyone who is watching the show would be willing to check that out real quick. That's probably an easy Google thing. When did Playboy feature its first black playmate? I'd be curious to find that out, because I wonder if this is just like a really strategic decision on their part. What else? Got other comments?
Well, Kristen says, I'm really interested in understanding more about the trans-attracted man. Before you answer that, I want to emphasize what Troy has asked us. So the the Trans Supportive Brotherhood on Facebook is a group for men only, guys who identify in the masculine, to come together and communicate amongst themselves.
Yeah, we talk about...
So ladies, it's not for us.
Yeah, we talk about... Is that what she's asking about?
No.
Okay. We talk about...
he asked me to respond to.
Okay, we talk about issues that we have in dating trans women and issues that we have about identifying as trans attractive, because there isn't any place where men like us can safely air these issues and talk with these issues. We've tried in the past, and Troy knows this very well, we've tried in the past to talk to the women we admire and love.
This is the Brotherhood.
Yes, the Brotherhood. The trans-attracted men in the Brotherhood have tried to talk to women, the trans women we love about our issues, but we've been shot down and beat down and vilified when we've tried to bring up these issues. So
keep talking.
Exactly. So having this Brotherhood is a great place for men like us to be able to talk amongst ourselves in a safe space, be heard, be supported, and as a result of that, go back out into the world and be authentically who we are. So it's a great group. So what did Kristen want to know?
She wants to know more about the trans-attracted man.
What do you want to know about the trans-attracted man, Kristen?
Because she wants to understand.
Yeah. I'm interested in hearing more about what she's interested in. And then it looks like, oh wait, here it goes. Okay, right out there. My boyfriend had sex with a post-op trans woman at one point because she was an interesting person and he was curious, but that was post-op. I understand that straight men appreciate women non-op. I'm really interested, but maybe this isn't the space. This is the perfect space, and there are people who are watching the show right now who will answer this question too. The fact is that there are trans-attracted men who are interested in all kinds of trans women, not just post-op or pre-op. And so your partner or boyfriend, your boyfriend did. I hope he didn't have sex with this person while he was seeing you, or maybe you guys had a poly relationship, which is great. But I would presume that he has some level of transamory, or at least trans attraction.
Well, that goes to the argument that all people are potentially trans attracted.
Well, that's right. That's right. But maybe because she said because she was an interesting person. I wonder if he might have been sapiosexual. So just interested in her because she was a smart person. I don't know. So yeah, there's lots of people on the show in the audience right now, Kristen, who would love to talk with you about this. So Mari did some research for us. Thank you, Mari. The first African American Playmate of the month was Jennifer Jackson, who appeared. Jennifer Jackson, is that a Jackson 5? Probably not.
No.
Jennifer Jackson, Playmate of the month, who appeared in the March 1965 issue. The first African American Playmate of the year was Renee Tennyson in 1990. Thank you, Mari. That's awesome. So yeah, it was right around the time that Stonewall was kicking off. So not surprising. Isn't this interesting? So Playboy, strategically speaking, Playboy has done things in the moment that has catapulted their prominence. Whether it's featuring an African American woman, whether it's featuring a transgender person, whether it's interviewing key political leaders at key political times. I mean, they're just very savvy with regard to running their business. And it makes total sense to me from a business perspective that they would have done this at this time. It just makes total sense. Mm-hmm. Okay, who else is commenting? Why are you shaking your head at me now, Jonathan? And then, okay, so Kristen must have said something because it's me. Oh, here we go. Oh, I see what she's saying. All right, so yeah, so it's a great opportunity today to stop and acknowledge all the trans people who have gone before us, who have blazed the trail and have made this, Time called it the transgender tipping point. The transgender tipping point is not a single moment in time, as I said before. It's a culmination of all these things that have gone before us. The Marsha P. Johnsons, that other woman that, who was it that found her name? I think it was Mari. Yeah, Miss Major Griffin Gracie. It's Martin Luther King. It's Stokely Carmichael. It's Malcolm X. It's Harvey Milk. It's all of these people that have contributed to this one moment in time today where we see so much prominent conversation about transgender people. It's all related. And as a result, just like this issue is all related with all the other civil rights issues, we, human beings, are all related with each other. And our actions and behaviors and thoughts all come together to create the society that we're creating. And I'm so appreciative for the positive aspects of the society that I see coming together that allow people like this person here, who I love and admire, to have the freedoms that I enjoy as a cis whatever I am, the man that I am. And people like Jonathan and the white guys out there who are enjoying the privilege they're enjoying. And in this space, I can appreciate people like Jenna Jameson, who in her own way are contributing to the movement, to organizations like the Christian churches who are against transgender people, who are contributing to the movement, and those Christian churches who are for transgender people, who are contributing to the movement.
Yeah.
Everyone is doing their part.
That's a great point.
It's fabulous. It's fabulous to be alive today. It's fabulous. And it's fabulous to be a part of this.
Just fabulous.
It is.
Fabulous.
And it's part. Oh, thank you, Mari. Thank you so much. It just gave me permission to be who I am. Okay, so Jonathan said, but we need to be more than just pictorial exposure. It helps sales, however. Men buying are still hiding and focusing on sex. It's true, and everyone's in the place where they're at. I would love to see more of these men come out, and more of them will in time, as they see, as we promote the brotherhood, and as they see more of our shows online. Ola Ray, I don't know who Ola Ray. She was in the Thriller video. Troy is funny. Let's see, what else is happening? Polly, okay. So Christian was in a Polly, yes. Really? You saw that. Okay. Mm-hmm. She was the Jackson 5. I thought that's who that was. Jennifer Jackson. It was Jennifer Jackson from the Jackson family, I think. You smell good. Okay. What else? I know, I'm just random stuff.
You are kind of random.
I am kind of random.
You might have had caffeine.
All right, so I think we've covered it all. Another fabulous show. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Thank you, Remy, for being who you are and for leading off the show with this great story about Marsha P. Johnson, someone I did not know and really appreciate who she was and what she did for us. Rest in peace. I know you're in another life enjoying yourself. Thank you, Troy. Yes, he is messing with me, I know. Shameful. Oh, she was not from... Oh.
I was just going to let him believe it.
Okay. All right, so I stand corrected. She was not from the Jackson family.
He said it was because he put Jackson 6.
He did?
Oh, Jackson
okay.
6? She's...
Okay. Yeah, it was a great show.
Jackson.
Thank you, as always, for your participation. Check out Mari's show tomorrow, coming out on our YouTube channel, Transamorous Network. It's a great show. She has lots of insights for you. And maybe next week we'll have yet another show coming out. Bye, everybody. See you next week.